In the Bering Sea, the Coast Guard performs a perilous hoist off the deck of a cruise ship.
His heart rate's a little elevated, his blood pressure's pretty high. If they're not calm and we start hoisting them, it's a bad day all over again.
In an isolated village, the crew hustles to save a woman who needs immediate care.
She's seized, she was vomiting, so she was in serious condition.
And out on the Shelikof Strait, 5 fishermen abandon ship in rough seas.
You're worried about either swamping that vessel or capsizing it and making the situation much more challenging, much more dangerous for everyone.
The vast Alaskan wilderness, a place where beauty is cloaked by danger. Here, every day, 350 highly trained men and women risk their lives to save others. America's deadliest waters are protected by Coast Guard Alaska.
Okay. You guys told any medical update from district or anything?
Yeah, I guess we can call him.
Call real quick.
Y2 Megan Roberts, Air Station Sitka, Alaska. Right now, we have a medevac for a 54-year-old male on a cruise ship with pulmonary edema. He's 140 nautical miles south of Sitka. They'll be doing a hoist to get the patient off of the vessel.
Here we go.
Hi, guys.
My name is Lieutenant Chris Enixon. I'm an age 60 pilot here at Air Station Sitka. Cruise ships these days pretty much have hospitals on board. They've got high level of care on board. So the fact that we have to go and conduct a medevac, it's a pretty urgent case.
Everybody on board? Roger. Super ready for takeoff. Ready for takeoff. And sector from 3-8. Our ETA to the vessel is 20 mics, 20 mics. Sector, do you know, request to know if you have an update on the patient? Stand by on that.
Chris Belisle, Coast Guard rescue swimmer here at Air Station Sitka in Southeast Alaska. While we're en route, I'm in constant contact with Sector, which is our dispatch. They're giving us updates on what's going on, condition of the patient. But you'll never know until you're actually on deck making your own assessment.
But you want to take data, Chris? Switch to take the lead and an O2 kit. Target aside. Roger. Celebrity Century, Coast Guard Rescue Helicopter on channel 16.
Coast Helicopter, this is the Celebrity Century, channel 16.
When we get on scene, we establish communications with the bridge of the ship. And these large vessels have designated hoisting areas. They go through the drills to ensure that they know how to conduct these hoists. Although the physical size of the vessel is large and you'd think it'd be an easy hoist, sometimes it could be difficult depending on where the hoisting area will be.
It looks like we're going to open the stern. Doors open. Report ready for approach. Ready for approach. You're going to assemble the litter on deck, correct? That litter is already assembled. How are we doing, Carlos? Bring in Chris to the door. He's at the door. Target aside. Star's going out for load check. Load check complete. Star's going down. Silver's halfway down. And easy right. Silver's going down. Silver's on deck. Silver's disconnecting.
I get down on the cruise ship. First thing I do is I disconnect, grab my medical gear, and let the plane know that I'm okay. And then from there out, I talk to the doctor, and the doctor fills me in on what happened.
Silver's going down.
I'm Dr. Di Pietro. We have one patient in very life-threatening situation, and the patient needs to have some additional treatment, some cardiologist specialist observation that we cannot warrant for long term in our ship.
All right, we'll wait till they move them over.
The communication between me and the Coast Guard that was lifted down from helicopter is just few sentences, because we know what is important, what is essential. Patients like these are very unstable. And if you fail, the patient can die.
Looks like they're getting there. Roger.
So we have the patient package. I'm explaining to him what's going to happen, mostly noise, lots of wind. We need to get him up into the plane without causing further damage to him. His heart rate's a little elevated, his blood pressure's pretty high. Stress can be a huge factor in that. So if they're not calm and we start hoisting them, it's a bad day all over again.
I got ready for pickup. Patient's on the way up. Patient's halfway up. Airline's being attended. Patient's outside the cabin door. Bring a patient inside the cabin.
Did you guys get a chance? Can we call in to have 6EMS meet us?
Yeah, they should be doing that.
Okay, thank you.
My name is HST Christina McRobert. Carlos is hoisting him up, and I got the first look at the patient. You can tell he looks sick. We have to get the standard vitals. We do the blood pressure, SpO2, we apply oxygen, we do the 5 lead so that we can get a good EKG on him as best as we can, just to make sure, because things can go south very quickly in a cardiac case.
Try to take the load. Take the load. Chris, clear the deck. Back left 30. Chris, load cabin. Chris is inside the cabin. Cabin doors closed. Ready for flight.
Christina, we don't want to go high with this guy, right?
Yeah, no, we do not. I need some tape.
Yeah, he's seriously tachycardic.
Well, yeah. He's also nervous as hell. A lot better than it was. The patient is tachycardic, which means that they have a heart rate above 100. Normally, if you're going for a run, it doesn't mean anything, but for a patient that has a possible heart attack, putting that excess stress on it can really add to the pain. What are we looking at for ETA? 20? Yep. Maybe a little less. I noticed looking at his vitals that he's basically as stable as he's going to be. Our priority is still to get him to SICA in an emergency room as soon as possible.
If you guys want, we could probably tilt it over if you guys are stable, Chris, or if you're going to be choking him some more.
No, we're good. You can haul ass.
Chris and Christina started on the patient, got some new IVs in them, got them going. Once Chris told me the IVs were in, we had go ahead and tilted it forward, and we're making about 140 knots back.
A hell of a morning.
What do you have to say?
Wondered if he was going to be okay.
If this person was in such bad condition to come off the ship, we need to make best possible speed to get him to the airport.
Hurry! Hurry! Help!
Okay, we need tourniquet over here. The first thing I see when I get on scene is somebody holding direct pressure on a partial leg. Hey, can you hear me? Stay awake, okay? Talk to me.
The initial report was a boat taking on water. By the time we got on scene, those guys had abandoned the vessel, fearing that it was going to capsize on them.
It's going out the door. It's kind of rough out there, actually. And the door's going down.
Yeah, he's seriously tachycardic.
Well, yeah. A lot better than it was.
This morning we got a call for a medevac off of one of the cruise ships up here in Southeast Alaska. The patient's in the aircraft now. Chris and Christina started on the patient. Once Chris told me the IVs were in, we had go ahead and tilted it forward, and we're making about 140 knots back.
What do you have to say?
Wondered if he was going to be okay. Well, I told him we'll fix him up as soon as we can, and we'll get him right back to that buffet. We'll clog the other arteries. Ready for approach. Ready for approach.
You know, when we come in and we shut the aircraft down and the rotor stops, it's a gigantic relief for everybody on the crew. You know, you got Chris and Christina working on the patient in the back. You got Carlos running the cabin, and I mean everybody's involved. And we're only as strong as our weakest link, and we need everybody on board bringing their A game.
Welcome to SICA.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, up we go. Okay.
As soon as we shut down, we pass them off to the ambulance crew, which is just basically one more extension of our team. Everything is team-oriented right from the very beginning on saving this individual. So it was kind of nice that, you could trust everybody, everyone is going to do their job, their best for him.
My name's Dave Bond. I live in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. On Monday, at some point, I could just feel maybe my heart was fluttering a little bit. It just didn't seem to be in normal rhythm. And then at some point, I quickly could tell that I was getting a real shortage of breath. For the first time ever, I thought, there may be no tomorrow. Once that they said the Coast Guard was coming, I was putting my life in their hands. First person I talked to was Chris from the Coast Guard. He told me it was going to be okay. And so when he did that, I felt better. I think I'm a very lucky man. I got a wonderful wife, and I got 2 wonderful kids. I just wanted to see the next day. And with their help, the doctor on the ship, the nurse on the ship, the professional and highly trained Coast Guard, for my wife and my family, I just can't say how thankful I am.
All right, one more time. I'm gonna have to stick a little thing. There you go. Yeah, I see a little post-nasal drip back there. My name is Christina McRobert. I'm an HS2 here at Air Station Sitka. As an HS2, I work in the clinic, and I also go on medevacs when needed.
I already called 911. They're going to be more than 30 minutes away. There's been an accident in the DC shop.
Okay.
Chief is down there now.
Fine.
Today we were running a medical drill, and what we were trying to simulate is if there was a medical emergency on the air station, how the HSs would respond if EMS was not able to answer the call.
All right, hello, my name's Christina. What's going on? What happened? The first thing I see when I get on scene is somebody holding direct pressure on a partial leg. The rest of it isn't there. A little bit of blood that was scattered about, but they had the scene controlled pretty well. Okay, we need a tourniquet over here. And let's get some vitals going. With Claire doing what she did, it was an incredibly real scenario. She did so incredible that everybody kind of got into it and kind of felt that it was a very real situation.
EMS is 20 minutes out still, 20 minutes out.
Put both legs on. We're gonna roll her down on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
What we're looking for from our guys is to make sure they can control the bleeding, make sure that everything flows in an organized fashion.
All right, do you still feel your leg? Can you feel either of your legs? Can you feel any pain right now? Yeah?
This is definitely simulating a possible real-life scenario, whether it be in the clinic, driving home and you see a car accident, or out on a medevac. The more practice you have in emergency medicine, the better you'll be when the bell tolls.
All right, we're getting you to the hospital, okay? Will somebody call my mom? And will somebody grab her foot? She left behind? All right, we got the foot.
In my pocket. And when you get to the door, let's put her down and secure.
Okay.
Right,
all right, here.
Put her down, put her down.
1,
Stop.
2, 3.
Secure from drill. Great job, everybody.
Chief oversaw all of it. He could see what everybody was doing. I just noticed the 2 people that were helping me and her leg. I was just kind of paying attention to that, paying attention to what needed to be done.
All right, everyone. One of the things that you really got to work on when you're dealing with an amputation is make sure that the bleeding stops, because that's ultimately what's killing her. So if you're not, it doesn't matter if you start the IV and you get your oxygen going and you got her on the backboard, great. If you didn't stop the bleeding, well, all of it's for nothing. So that's definitely one of the key things there.
The drill was helpful. It's always helpful when we do this kind of stuff. It's a lot different in the helicopter, but you can always improve, so it's always good to keep your training up and keep doing stuff like this.
About 20 minutes ago, we got a mayday from a vessel taking on water. It sounds like they're probably going to be in the skiff or the life raft. Hopefully, they're not in the water.
I see one boat over there. Is that their boat? Yeah, there's a skiff right next to it. All right, guys, coming down to 300 feet. Ours in the water.
Today we have a special day. We've got kind of a local icon, Misty Warren. She's a physically handicapped young lady who absolutely adores the Coast Guard. Most of us in this shop all have kids, and we're all Boy Scout leaders or soccer coaches. So we're in the community also. And then for us to actually give back to somebody, you know, as iconic as Misty is, it's going to be wonderful. Hey, Misty. Hi. Welcome aboard. I hope you don't mind, but we heard you were coming. So we made up an official Coast Guard flight suit with your name and patch on. So that's for you to wear anytime, and then when we get in the plane, you gotta make sure you're wearing it for safety, okay?
It is my fine.
Typical rescue swimmers trumping the pilots again. We give her a hat, you guys give her a flight suit. What's next? Misty's probably the biggest Coast Guard fan I've ever seen. The pilots, we gave her a command hat, and she really enjoyed that, and the swimmers sewed her up a flight suit, so she's got her own flight suit. She's an honorary Coast Guard air crewman here in Sitka.
So you get a chance to see what it's like to be a rescue swimmer and then a pilot.
I don't know how to fly one.
Yeah, I do too, but they don't even let me do that. All right, young lady, why don't you sit up in the rescue swimmer seat? There you go.
She loves climbing through the helicopters, but she's never been able to be in a helicopter while it's moving. So today when we're taxiing out an aircraft, we're gonna let Misty sit up in the front seat just to get a little bit of a glimpse how it is when the aircraft's moving along.
All right, you ready?
Do you know what those do?
Yeah.
What's that?
They start the thing.
They start the thing, exactly. Anytime we are able to work with the community, it's special for everybody involved. It's something that everybody at the base takes time to stop, see a smiling kid, be happy.
I gotta go to duty, so thanks for coming. I appreciate playing with you. You have a good day, hon. Missy was just smiling from ear to ear in every part of the moment, which makes us really happy. Glad that we got to do something like this. And I have a feeling we're gonna be getting somebody that's gonna be trying to apply for the Coast Guard.
6034.
Drive 34.
There's a little dolphin within you. Go flight.
Thanks a lot. You have a good one as well.
Thanks. Just tag me now. Take me with you.
The 60 got airborne at minute 02, C-130 got airborne at minute 09. I'm Lieutenant Lane Steffenhagen, Operations Duty Officer at Air Station Kodiak. About 20 minutes ago, we got a call. Actually, I overheard a call of a mayday from a vessel taking on water out to the west of us. 5 people on board, 56-foot fishing boat, and that sounded like they were going down pretty quick. The last call we heard from the fishing vessel was that they were getting in their skiff and taking their life raft with them, that they were in their survival suits. So hopefully they were going to be able to stay out of the water. When the C-130 gets there, we'll have a better idea of what's going on because they'll be able to get a visual on these guys and then pass the information to the 6044 as they're heading toward the scene to, to kind of prep them for what to expect at that point. It sounds like they're probably going to be in the skiff or the life raft. Hopefully they're not in the water.
We should have plenty of fuel to send the swimmer down, assess and coordinate the rescue, get some folks out of the boat one at a time. Is that what your thoughts are?
Yeah. Jason McGrath, AST2, rescue swimmer on the 60s. As soon as we took off, I'm starting to think about what I'm going to say to these guys, how I'm going to keep them calm. They all had survival suits on, so I knew, going from the skiff, it'd be one at a time in the water, taking them to the basket. So I started getting my gear ready to get in the water and start picking them up.
India, Coast Guard C-130, right at safe.
All right, guys, C-130's got the boat safe.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant James Kevin Morrow Jr. I am a C-130 pilot here at Air Station Kodiak. So we flew out there, conditions were beautiful. The only thing that we did have was about 40-knot winds coming from the north-northwest, and that was causing them some pretty big swells on the water. I would say about 8 to 10 feet that the fishing vessel was kind of getting. And when we got on scene, The 5 crew members had already abandoned their ship, but it was still afloat, and they had all gotten onto their skiff, and must have had a handheld radio because I was able to talk to them on channel 16.
Okay, just keep this informed and we'll circle overhead until the helo's on.
They're kind of nervous with the whole situation, understandably, but we talked to them and just kind of give them that warm and fuzzy feeling that, hey, we're out here, we see you, the helicopter's almost on scene, and we're gonna get you guys out of the water.
The initial report was a boat taken on water southwest of Kodiak, which is on Kodiak Island. By the time we got on scene, those guys were already in their 17-foot skiff and had abandoned the vessel, fearing that it was going to capsize on them.
All right, guys, coming down to 300 feet. It's kind of rough out there, actually. Hey, Jason? Yes, sir. Yeah, there's some pretty good swells out there. You just want to do a harness deployment? Okay, that's fine. I can do a sling deployment. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. You have them in sight yet? I see one boat over there. Is that their boat? That's what I was thinking. At 1 o'clock? Yeah. Yeah, there's the skiff right next to it.
The first thing we do is get on scene is we want to assess the situation, see what's going on. The starboard stern was sinking down into the water with a bunch of its netting overboard. We saw the 5 guys in the skiff, dressed out in their red Gumby suits. We made a couple passes, made an approach to the water.
Vessel Scandia, this is Coast Guard helicopter 6444. That helicopter is that's Scandia, go ahead. Yeah, Scandia from the Coast Guard helicopter. Our plan is to put a swimmer in the water and then have you guys get in the water one at a time and we'll pick you up via the basket.
It's only a 17-foot skiff. It's pretty small, especially 5 people. My biggest concern, anytime we're below 300 feet, we're putting hurricane force winds down for rotor wash. So you're worried about either swamping that vessel or capsizing it and making the situation much more challenging, much more dangerous for everyone. So our plan was to put the swimmer down.
Rescue briefing. This will be a sling deployment of the rescue swimmer. We'll check swimmer below 30, and we'll use an altitude of 30 feet. Roger, stand by. Yeah, Jason's just about ready. Roger. Ready, ask for a sling deployment of the rescue swimmer. Roger, check swimmer. And swimmer's ready. Get noise. Roger, target in sight. It's going out the door. And swimmer's going down. Swimmer's going down. Swimmer's halfway down. Swimmer is 5 feet off the water and hold. Roger, and the boat at 1 o'clock comment. Roger. Forward right 10. I don't want to. Forward right 5. I don't want to get you forward right 10. Swimmer's going down. Swimmer's in the water. Swimmer's okay.
So I swam up to the skiff and kind of pulled myself up over the rail and asked if everybody was okay, if anyone was hurt. Asked, nobody was left on the other boat. So he said he was good and just to, follow my directions to make it easy.
Ready, he's got one guy in the water. Roger that, bring in the basket.
We asked the swimmer to swim up to him, ask him to get in the water, and then come away from the vessel about 100 feet or so.
Target in sight. Basket's going out the door. Basket's going down.
And then I could come in that way without getting the boat with the rotor wash and pick him up with the basket.
Driver's getting in the basket, left 5. Now they're ready for pickup signal. They're ready to take the load. And take the load. Basket clear the water, clear out back and left.
The first hoist went really well. It went quickly without any problems.
And survivor and basket are inside the cabin, hoist complete. He's in the water now, so you can send the basket back down. Roger, that basket's going out the door.
The second hoist, it was kind of difficult just because the waves were pushing those guys around a lot, so the counting commands were all over the place.
Yeah, we're pushing them around. We might want to back off a little bit there. Back in left 5, back in left 10.
And as the survivor climbed into the basket, he tangled himself in the cable.
Looks like he's got a little bit of wrap in the cable around his arm. Okay. I can't see what he's doing. This guy's ramping up the cable. Left 5, he's in left. not visual with the swimmer at all.
Roger that. And hold. I really need to get that cable out. I don't know what that guy did. As he was climbing in, he wrapped himself up in it. Hold position.
Yeah, so the guy decided to pull himself through the basket and sit on top of the float, which is not sitting in the basket. And when he did that, his arm got wrapped in the cable. And luckily, the flight mechanic saw it also, so he wasn't starting to pull up cable, and he gave me some slack.
And Joe's still trying to clear the cable. Easy left.
Every time I'd push him back down to untangle it, he would freak out a little bit and pull himself back up and keep the tangle on. So luckily, he realized at one point that he was tangled in it too, and helped me to help him get that off.
Is he still tangled up, or? No, he's fine. I'm just gonna go. It looks like he's ready. And taking the load. And survivors clear the water.
We were able to maintain position, get him untangled, get ready for pickup signal, and bring him to the aircraft safely. But he was pretty flustered. When he actually got to the helo, he jumped out of the basket like the moment he hit the door. It was kind of entertaining and kind of unsafe, but it worked.
So that worked about as well as it could.
After that survivor was hoisted into the aircraft, a rescue swimmer went over and said, "See how hard that was? It doesn't have to be that hard. Do it this way." And the next 3 hoists went fairly uneventful.
Basket's going out the door. Basket's in the water at the survivor. Got survivor at the cabin door. Roger, swimmer in sight. Alright, basket's going out the door, basket's going down. Roger. Everybody in the cabin seems to be in good spirits for the most part. Okay. Bringing survivor in the cabin.
We got one more guy.
Roger that. Basket's going out the door. Survivor at the basket. And taking the load. Survivor is approaching the cabin. And bringing survivor in the cabin. Hoist complete.
Good job on the hoist, Josh.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Roger, we do have ready for pickup from the swimmer when you're ready.
Roger that.
We got everybody in the aircraft in under 25 minutes, which is really good. And it also minimized their exposure to the water. They were pretty happy. They were pretty excited to be on the helicopter. They were excited to see us.
Yeah, all these guys look happy and healthy.
All right, we're out of here.
Wrapped up rescue checklist part 3. We climbed back up and over the mountain ridges about 5,000 feet. Had a little bit of a tailwind, so we got back in about 20 minutes, record time.
All right, you guys wobble out and get out of your suits out here.
Find out where we have shoes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
It's a good day to have a bad day.
Yeah.
It is a pretty good day. A lot of times after a rescue, we don't get that interaction. We don't have that exchange.
How you doing?
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Really appreciate it. Captain, won't let me.
Hey, my name's Adam Spencer. I'm one of the pilots on the aircraft. Anytime. So, you know, to come out on a Sunday duty day and get to instead go rescue 5 people from the Shelikof Strait, it's just an awesome feeling. You guys made the good decision to get on the skiff and get your Gumby suits on. That water's a crisp 43 degrees.
My name's Luke Anderson, and I'm the captain of the Scandia. We were heading up from Alatak up to Shelikof, about 2 miles offshore, and started noticing a water problem in the lazarette. The high water alarm started going off, and the stern was filling up with water, and we had about 6 inches of water covering the back of the boat. Went ahead and cut the skiff loose and got the guys in the boat. There's 2 things that you start praying for when you're out there: God and the Coast Guard. It's better than feeling your first kiss, seeing that plane come over the mountains and then the helicopter right behind. I just looked at the guys and said, we're safe. The Coast Guard is, in my opinion, the best branch of the military. They're amazing. You know, they come out when it gets so bad that we can't live anymore, and they come out and that's when their job starts. So I don't have anything but great to say about them.
We got a 51-year-old female with seizures, and that are bundled up pretty tight, and she was still shivering.
After getting launched on the fishing vessel Scandia, picking up the 5 people from that vessel, the SAR alarm went off. 50-year-old woman just was in pretty bad discomfort and needed to see a higher level of care. Lieutenant Matthew Breckel, H-60 pilot, Air Station Kodiak. After getting launched on the fishing vessel Scandia, picking up the 5 people from that vessel, just seriously had closed my eyes and was drifting off when the SAR alarm went off. It's for a medevac out of Kodiak, which is on the south end of Kodiak Island.
We got a call for a 51-year-old female suffering from seizures, back pain, and some uncontrollable shivering. We're launching a H-60 helicopter out of Kodiak, out of the air station here. They'll fly down to Kodiak, retrieve the patient, and then they're gonna have to take a slightly longer route on the way back because they're gonna keep their altitude below 1,000 feet. An increase in altitude reduces pressure, and if it was something cardiac related, that can have an effect on the blood pressure of the patient. So they try to keep the patient lower just to reduce any inflammation of the symptoms. And they'll bring her back to Kodiak, and we'll have an ambulance waiting for her when she arrives.
Hey guys, plan on having the litter put together by the time we get down there. They were thinking it's going to be a litter transfer, but the ambulance is going to meet us down there. Any questions?
No questions. Nope.
One of the nice things about flying in Alaska during the summertime is that we get a lot of light. You know, twilight goes up through 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then boom, the sun's coming back up again at 3:34 in the morning. So you still got light pretty much all the way down there.
They said they had her bundled up pretty tight, Jason, and she was still shivering.
Okay. Should we be trying to warm her up when she gets in if she's shivering?
Yeah, I'm going to ask them to just let us know what you need for heat.
Do we know what happened to her?
She's having seizures. I guess she's got a history of some heart issues as well.
It was getting dusk, but still light out, so it kind of helped keep us awake so we weren't too tired. And you know, first thing that comes to mind when you hear a call for seizures and throwing up at the same time, you want to make sure you keep their airway clear with suction. And on the way out there, and we rigged the litter, got that ready to go so we could pick her up quickly.
If you hear some bumping and banging back here, sir, it's no big deal.
Roger.
You got a room for this over there? He's starting to fall in my way.
When we knew we were about 10, 15 minutes out, I started getting the cabin ready to receive the patient. So I had to assemble that litter. The litter is about 6 feet long and 2.5 feet wide or so. And it breaks down in half, so putting it together can sometimes be a real pain. The rescue swimmer was giving me a hand, that always helps.
And I know you guys are still getting set up back there, so 4 or 5 minutes out, just let us know when you're ready for approach.
Roger that, sir.
I was busy rummaging around in the aircraft, setting things aside, pushing things under seats, getting the cabin ready to take on a patient in a stretcher.
All right, coming down.
Roger.
Are you stepping out there, Jason?
Yeah. Okay, going off ICS.
All right, sir, I'm going to go ahead and help these guys take the litter out. Okay, you cleared out. Roger that.
Kodiak is a small village. It's got a little dirt runway they're able to land on, and I don't think they even have a hospital out there, just another EMT or nurse practitioner out there or something. It's such a small community. You know, they transported her in the back of a pickup truck because they don't have an ambulance. So we went over, you know, checked her out real quick and talked to the nurse there. We found out from the nurse a little bit of her history, that she had seized a couple times that night, last medications taken, stuff like that. We packaged her up in the litter and carried her over to the helicopter that was still turning and waiting.
There was a lot of friends and I assume family around with her, and they were able to help us carry her up to the aircraft and put her in, and we're real happy to see us off. It's great to have the help, and it's great to have them, you know, rooting for you at the same time. It's nice to know that somebody's there who cares about this person.
You guys ready to go to the back? And we're ready, yeah.
Roger. Coming up, no hover takeoff.
Roger, clear it.
After we got the patient in the aircraft, she was wrapped up in a sleeping bag and turned on her side. She wasn't talking or doing very much at all. The rescue swimmer got his equipment hooked up so he could monitor her heart, put her on oxygen, put hearing protection on her for the loud noise that the helo has. We tried to talk to her a little bit and just make sure that she was comfortable.
Gotcha. He's on the oxygen. How you feeling?
After that, we just tried to keep her as comfortable as we could. She vomited a couple of times while she was back there.
Probably need to make a guard call.
Me?
Yeah, I told Jason we'd take it up front.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Yep.
You can't do everything back here.
Anyhow, got tailwind. That's good news.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it as smooth as possible here, guys, but...
I thought this was pretty smooth for you, sir.
Thanks.
Just kidding.
Just made our way. I'd created a route all the ways back to Kodiak, utilizing a lot of the low-level passes that we use to navigate throughout the island. Kind of a labyrinth. As soon as we were landing, we could see the ambulance coming on base, and they were completely ready for us to take that patient once we got shut down and immediately transferred over so she could get to the hospital as quickly as possible.
51-year-old female seized twice tonight, about a minute for the first one, 45 seconds for the second one. History of heart problems. What she sees is she experiences a lot of back pain, and it stayed that way the whole time.
We came back, you know, from the second case, so we were tired. We were all tired.
2, 3. Good job, gentlemen.
And basically called it quits, had another crew waiting for us, and headed home and went to bed.
That's not bad. 2 in one night.
I know. 2 quick ones, too.
Yeah, really.
Not a 5-hour transit somewhere.
Yeah, that was all right. I am tired and ready to go to bed.
Yeah, me too. Feels good to get 2 cases in one day, you know, because you can go a long time without any cases, which is good because people are being safe out there, but, you know, that's part of our job is we want to be out there saving people.
We're doing the Run to Remember to raise money for families of fallen coasties.
Come on, hit it. Turn it on. We're just trying to let those families know that we still remember them and the loved ones that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I hope they see that all the way up here in Kodiak. We still remember. Way to go! Nice.
Nice to see you. Here's your little shirt. Thank you. Good day. Thanks.
I'm Lieutenant Matthew Breckel. I'm a H-60 pilot at Air Station Kodiak. We're doing the Run to Remember. The Chiefs Pay Officers Association is putting this on, and they're doing a 100-mile ultramarathon down in the Keys, Florida Keys, and kind of this is the Kodiak's version. We're trying to get some people together and do a run raising money for the families of fallen coasties.
All right, folks, gather around, please. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming. The donations going to the Coast Guard Foundation, and we got quite a bit. We raised over $4,000 for the scholarship fund, so great job. That's how we want to remember those folks that went before us. I mapped it out. It's exactly a 5K. I'll be keeping your times and let you know. I'll call them out as you come across the finish line. We don't have numbers. There's not going to be any winner. You know, the winners were the Coast Guard Foundation recipients and all that for the money we raised. And I thank you. I just wanted to get us all together, wear these T-shirts, and remember, and it worked out, and I appreciate it. We're going to give it a go. So let's go to the starting line. All right, you ready, buddy? It's for all the folks that have died, and unfortunately quite a few, since 1992. So 20 years of families that lost their Coast Guard loved ones. So we're just trying to let those families know that we still remember them and the loved ones that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And we raised a lot of money for the foundation, the scholarship fund, and now we're going to go run. On your mark. Get set. Hey, your shoes untied! Wait for me! Stavinsky, what the heck? Where's your shirt?
I'm When I first came in the Coast Guard, I never really thought that I would know people who would pass away while performing their jobs. And unfortunately, I've had a couple of people I've had the, real pleasure to serve with that have passed away early. And so to go and honor them is a big thing. I think we should never forget, those who've gone before us.
Push it out! Push it out!
Nice. 17:52.
Woo! Good job, Jake.
Way to go, Jake.
Woo! That's superhuman.
Come on, crank it out.
Way to go. Woo! Way to go.
2024. 2024. Come on, hit it. Turn it on. 21.55. Nice job. People really got some great times. We had 1:17 something. That's amazing. I haven't done that in 20 years. But yeah, people really worked hard, to raise money for their families and let the families know we're still here. We still remember you, even though your husband or wife died on active duty, and they're still part of our Coast Guard family. And that's why we're all here. And that people tried really hard. And I hope they see that all the way up here in Kodiak. We still remember. It went well. 23.08.
Pretty happy with that. Up here in Alaska, people live in remote environments, and definitely we're that lifeline sometimes for them. It just goes to show the community, just how committed we are. We're all one family on the island and taking care of each other. And I think it takes a special breed of person who is really committed to his fellow Americans to go out and do it. When we're needed, it's great to be able to help people who are in severe distress.
When we delivered a patient for, a higher level of care at the hospital, it's a great feeling. It just shows the tenacity of the men and women here. Every time I walk through the door of this hangar or strap into an aircraft, I am so proud to be working with the men and women Coast Guard wide. It's probably some of the best teamwork you'll ever find, in any organization. It's extremely gratifying to come and know that the men and women you're working with are actually putting 110% forward all the time.